Okay, lesson 4.2 is the triangle congruence by SSS and SAS. Our objectives are to prove two triangles congruent using the side-side-side or side-angle-side postulates. First, let's look at what those postulates are. Postulate 4.1, the side-side-side postulate, says if three sides of one triangle are congruent to three sides of another triangle, then the two triangles are congruent. So if all three sides are congruent, the triangles have to be congruent also. So in this case, triangle GHF is congruent to triangle PQR because we know all three sides are congruent. We've got side GH and side PQ, side HF and side QR, and side GF and side PR. Postulate 4.2, the side-angle-side postulate, says if two sides and the included angle of one triangle are congruent to two sides and the included angle of another triangle, then the two triangles are congruent. So here we've got side CB matches side DF. Angle C is congruent to angle D, and then side CA is congruent to side DE. It has to be two sides and the angle in between them. So we can say that triangle BCA and triangle FDE are congruent. Okay, let's look at some examples of how we would prove these things. Example 1 says proving triangles congruent. Given M is the midpoint of side XY, AX is congruent to side AY. Prove triangle AMX is congruent to triangle AMY. Okay, in this case we're writing a paragraph proof. It says you are given that M is the midpoint of XY. Set it right up here. And that AX is congruent to AY, also given. The midpoint M implies that MX is congruent to XY. The midpoint M implies that MX is congruent to MY. AM is congruent to AM by the reflexive property of congruence. Remember, reflexive is the one that just kind of seems obvious. Don't have to think about it. By the reflexive property of congruence, so triangle AMX is congruent to triangle AMY by, well, we proved all the sides to be congruent. So that would be the side-side-side postulate. And that is how you use it. So let's keep going here. Using side-side-side and side-angle-side. Side AD is congruent to side BC, so they marked it here to show you that. What other information do you need to prove triangle ADC is congruent to triangle BDC? So ADC, and then we're also looking at triangle BDC. It is given that AD is congruent to BC, so we know one side is the same. Also, side DC is congruent to side CD by the symmetric property of congruence. Because it's DC equals CD. Okay, so solution 1. If we know that side AC is congruent to side ED, then we could use the side-side-side postulate to prove that these triangles are congruent. Or we know that the two DC and CB are equal. We know AD and BC are congruent. So if we knew that this angle matched this angle, then we could use side angle side. So if we knew angle D was congruent to angle C, then we could use side angle side to prove these triangles were congruent. All right, let's look at number 3. Are the triangles congruent? From the given information, can you prove triangle RSG is congruent to triangle RSH? Given that angle RSG is congruent to angle RSH, so this angle and this angle are congruent, and side SG and side SH are congruent, and we know that RS is congruent to RS by the reflexive property of congruence. Two pairs of corresponding sides and their included angles are congruent. So we've got a side, an angle, and then another side. So that would be this side, angle, side postulate. Remember, the angle always has to be in between the two sides. Okay, then there are just 3 problems for you to check out today. The first one says rewrite the proof from example 1 as a 2-column proof. So we wrote it before as a paragraph. Now we're going to say, okay, this is the statement, write the reason. And this first statement is what was given to start with. So we didn't have to find that out, they just gave it to us. And then you have to find the reasons for the others to prove those 2 triangles are congruent, which you've already done, it's just a different layout. Okay, then number 2, what other information do you need to prove that triangle ABC is congruent to triangle CDA? So look at this picture over here, decide what you need to know to prove that. And then number 3, from the information given, can you prove that the triangles are congruent? So use the figure, use the information they give you here, try to decide if you know that those triangles are congruent or if you need more information. All right, go ahead, get started on that. If you have any questions, make sure you're asking, and good luck.